That's food for thought.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Frankenstein's podcast, where it's all about the monster. We're a creature feature podcast about monsters and why we love them. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Praska, and with me, as always, is
your other hosty host, Khalid Hussein.
Hey, welcome back. You came back.
I'm back. I didn't run away.
That's so nice. How's it? I mean, it's been a while. How are things?
Oh my God, things are things. I don't want to put too much of a qualitative statement to them. Personally, things are good. I just got back from my friend's 40th birthday party, which is nuts to say, but I have friends that have just turned 40, and I got to go hang out with them at Lake Arrowhead, and it was such a nice and refreshing getaway. What about you? What did you do with your break?
God. I think listeners got a little glimpse of it. I narrated a little bit of our in-between reissue episodes here and there with updates. There are a little bit challenges up here in Minnesota during the break. But I will say on the good end, we tried to get together with friends and family as much as possible. Tried to catch up on shows that we missed. Tried to just keep on keeping on, I guess, is what people say. Is that a thing people say?
That is a thing people say. Keeping on is a noble attempt in these days, in these trying times.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm stretching because it's like I just got out of bed because I'm back. That's kind of what I'm doing here.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes. You were in a slumber of sorts, and now you're back.
Exactly, and it's nice. It's nice to be podcasting again because I will admit that this is a joyful thing. I know sometimes it's a lot of work, but overall, it's fun. I have a good time.
Not to give the audience too much of the sausage bits, but you were texting me not too long ago before we recorded, saying how excited you were to be recording again, and so yeah. I'm glad that we get to do this again, if only for ourselves. But I know there are people that enjoy it, so I'm glad that we get to do it for them as well.
Yeah, I'm happy. And we got a really fun like 80s cheese fest ahead of us to discuss, which was kind of like the warm embrace of the 80s horror, honestly, for me,
That good cheese.
It's nacho cheese.
Yeah, that's that Velveeta, no craft.
Yeah.
Velveeta's better based on advertising, I assume.
I'm a Gouda man myself.
You're a Gouda man. You don't even go for the national brands. Okay.
I do. Before we jump into that, I do want to shout out one thing though.
Hit me.
We did get a new over the break. We got a brand new patron at I think the $1 level, but I just wanted to give them a shout out and thanks for joining the Patreon. It's Jason Ortiz, who is a new listener, but seems to be really excited about digging into the backlog. So just wanted to shout out and say thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Jason. It's so nice to have you in the fold. It's the Patreon level there's a lot of opportunities to get in at that level still, but I'm so very grateful as one of the hosts to welcome you into it. This is a labor of love, and we love anybody that supports that labor.
So full of love.
So lovely.
Khalid?
Yes.
Got a question for you.
Hit me.
What does a brain do when it sees a friend?
What does a brain do when it sees a friend? Fudge. I don't know.
Nice.
I really don't know what a brain does when it sees a friend. That's a very good question. What does
a brainwave?
I was thinking too hard about it. I was thinking about it on levels that the joke did not need.
Were you thinking about it with your brain, Khalid?
Unfortunately, yes. My brain was not up to the task of figuring out this unfortunate brain pun.
Hey, Khalid.
Hey, Joe.
Why did the brain refuse to take a bath?
Why did the brain refuse to take a bath? Um Tell me. I don't know. I have nothing.
It didn't want to get brainwashed.
Oh, that's good. That's pretty good.
That's a segue, Khalid. What are we talking about?
Thanks for asking, Joe. Today we're talking about The Brain, the 1988 horror film directed by Edward Hunt, and a synopsis by your homeboy me, Khalid, that goes a little something like this. Local Bart Simpson type Jim Majalewski is the target of a local public broadcasting magnate, Dr. Anthony Blake, for the crime of being too darn rad. After a dope prank that permanently damages the school pipes, Jim is enlisted as a guinea pig in Dr. Blake's diabolical mission to make TV more dangerous than it already is. With the help of his GF Janet, Jim puts the super glue and whoopee cushion aside so he can save the nation from a giant brain with slightly more malevolent plans than Fox News.
What a monster.
They're creatures of the abstract that live off potential energy.
It's alive!
Nice.
You like that?
I did like that
one. I just kept thinking really hard about like what the movie was about and just being like, it's honestly like this is like a borderline benign plan.
I mean, so I'm almost like mad at you, but I'm also happy that you said the same thing because like I also noted watching it that he's a Bart Simpson type.
Okay, but like I really like thought about it. Like the movie came out in 1988. So like by this point, like the archetypal brat is like pretty solidified because The Simpsons comes out in 89, you know, or at least like the first iteration of The Simpsons as it goes along. So like I gotta give props to this movie for like being even a year ahead of the curve in terms of like that Dennis the Menace archetype that was gonna just like really wash over the nation. Like they really called it. They might have been just a little too early because I feel like this movie would be way more popular if not.
Yeah, it's well, like they didn't fully commit to it. Like he's just kind of doing that in the beginning. I mean, I feel like the vibe that I got was he was also kind of trying to do like a Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly kind of vibe sometimes. So it was like a McFly / Bart Simpson in a sense.
Was McFly a prankster?
I just feel like the look and the attitude kind of came through there. You know, it was like he was like a more pranky McFly.
That's fair. And I think I agree. Like McFly definitely falls under like the umbrella of like Bart Simpson influences, but like because this is 1988, like this feels like so much more pulling from the same grab bag of pop culture references for a teenage or young boy as The Simpsons.
Totally. Anyway, do you want a little bit of background here?
I would love some background.
So the film, The Brain.
I
don't know why I said that. The Brain. It's the brainchild, pun intended, of director Ed Hunt and screenwriter Barry Pearson. The pair had actually previously worked together on the film Bloody Birthday, but their goal ultimately with this one was to kind of take aim at the self-help, self-esteem craze of the period by way of low-budget sci-fi horror. Kind of something that we see in this era a little bit. We've talked about it even in the podcast with like The Brood, like Cronenberg. He did that with The Brood. He did it with Scanners, even though those are a little bit older, but just kind of like that sort of vibe that there's this like kind
those
of
are
new,
also Ed Hunt or Cronenberg?
No, that's Cronenberg. It's just like that same vibe of like kind of like tackling the sort of like pop psychology craze at that time. So I'll get into some of the effects work and behind the scenes down the road. But anyway, let's just get into some initial thoughts. What did you think of The Brain?
I enjoyed it. Like overall, it was an enjoyment thing. Obviously, I think it would be a disservice to this movie not to mention that it kind of just like hits 1980s horror movie bingo. You know what I mean? Like it is just chock full of like 1980s horror tropes, like everything from unnecessarily graphic depictions of women right before they get murdered down to like people at Lookout Point, like being afraid of something coming after them. Truly, it runs the gamut of like 1980s horror movie tropes in the sense of like true, like whatever thing you see in this movie will be like, oh, this reminds me of something. You know what I mean? Um, I don't think that's a knock against the movie though. I think that it very like skillfully, expertly like places all the pieces and is just like as reasonably as anybody else in like influenced by the culture around them. I just think that it comes too late in the genre for it to stand out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
One the thing that really like clung to me was like the idea of like TV or mass media driving people to the point of like insanity slash being like very easily controlled. And so like I just kept thinking like, oh, okay, so like a movie like this like made today would be about the internet. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't see too many like disparate parallels between like what Jim is going through versus like what a false flag shooter or even just a legit shooter would go through today, in the sense that like the media would rush to build the narrative around you before any kind of facts were settled, which was like super fascinating to see.
Yeah.
um Beyond that, I think that like Jim is like a really like quaint character. I don't know that we see too many characters like him these days anymore, of like a guy that is like super smart but like can't help himself and like still wants to like cause a little mayhem and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so seeing like a guy like that just like put through the ringers, which is like super fascinating, super entertaining. I'm sure we'll get into it. But beyond that, yeah, I really saw like I was very engaged by the idea of like media and like the anxieties even in 1988 around it, of like people are like rightfully scared of the amount of influence and power this like small thing that's in everybody's home has over everyone. And I could not help but like put that onto our modern lens of like we are all reasonably scared of like what phones and stuff do to us.
Mhm.
And it's our anxieties on like this thing that like for better or worse we have welcomed into our home. And is it for our best selves? Is it like ultimately a net positive, or is it like fucking us and we're all going crazy and we will suddenly start accusing each other of insane things by virtue of the fact that the TV told us or
Mm.
the phone told us? So these, especially these days, I was very much like affected by that messaging.
Yeah.
What about you, Joe?
That was incredibly well said, Khalid. The way you described it actually almost give me some parallels to like the conversations we had about the Grim Cuddy a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, like the ideas of like kind of just like tech fueled paranoia or like mass communication paranoia type stuff. Very interesting stuff. So my thoughts, like I'm with you, like very much not like a classic a la The Thing or Aliens or something like that, you know, but like it's definitely a very enjoyable like 80s horror flick. Like that's very fun. There's like the tone and the aesthetics are right up my alley. The 80s sort of like score that's very like, you know, drum heavy, like when he's running around with like a little bit of synth in the background. That's super fun. I love the PRI building, the psychology building, like the green carpets and everything. Just very like aesthetically like right in place where it needs to be. It feels like it's kind of a fun like mashup in a sense though. Like it's got this like kind of almost like 50s atomic era monster movie like vibe where it's just kind of like a weird like the brain, you know, like that feels like something from that era, but it's like mashed together with something that's very 1980s. And it's kind of I like that piece. Love how boldly it's willing to show the creature. I mean, I know that's kind of like the primary draw of the film, but like, you know, sometimes these movies, like you wait a long time to see it. It's like a money shot, but like this is just in full display, like a lot, which
you
is
see the
very
brain
fun.
so much.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. Loved the font for some reason of Dr. Blakely's show, Independent
Like
Thinking.
slightly Ghostbusters font.
Kind of like the TV show, like his show, the blue like background and the cursive. Like I kind of want that on a T-shirt. That was pretty cool. David Gale, actor who played Dr. Blakely, was previously in Reanimator as the evil neurosurgeon there. So I think he was a highlight for me. I really enjoyed his character. He's very like
So wait, this was a TV
mustache twirly.
show before it was a movie?
No. He was in a different movie called The Reanimator, not too long before this. So he was kind of like, he's sort of like a horror movie character actor at the time, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought he was really enjoyable. As I mentioned before too, I liked the sort of like take on like pop psychology, but I think like you were saying, this kind of takes it to another level where it's all about like a TV personality and the type of like things that the immediacy of that like that media presence can do, and making this character kind of like a Dr. Phil, you know?
Yeah, like a Dr. Phil or a Dr. Oz, who is now, we're not a political podcast, but is a Dr. Oz who was a TV doctor for as much of his notoriety is worth mentioning, is now a part of the local government administration. So it's like this idea of like, yes, right now you are in a relatively frivolous field, but we know now that like that can lead to like a place of like policy decisions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what was like I more than Dr. Phil, I was like, this feels like Dr. Oz.
Dr. Oz is better. Yeah, that's a better comparison for sure. Yeah, it's great. And then there was like the part too where these like the teacher or the school like show the little video of it, and the mom is like, Dr. Blake wouldn't be on TV if he wasn't good, and and like yeah,
there's a part of me that like feels like a little bit like sanity wise, it feels grateful that a movie like this exists, because it's like, okay, I'm not crazy. People even back then were like calling out the potential negatives in like giving a platform to a person who may not be ethically like aligned with society, but like somehow being given a platform to speak to society. Like sometimes it feels like, how did we get here? How did we get to a point where like the fucking judge of The Apprentice is president? And it's not that everybody before us was like sitting there with blindfolds on, just like letting like chaos happen. It really is like as simple as like, yes, every generation has a contingency of people that are worried about this new technology that is giving unbridled access to the masses, and who is being given the platform to speak through that technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, yeah. You were on it with this podcast episode, Khalid. Wow. You were like really on it. I did not know you would go so deep in the brain, but you did.
Something about the current affairs is making me think more, I guess.
It's great. No, like I'm with you though. Like I was like watching, I was like, this is kind of apropos for the times a little bit, like
truly if this movie came out today, I feel like it'd be a hit.
Yeah. And people would certain people would hate it.
Sure. I feel like they would have to do some script rewrites to make it about like the shit that shows up on your phone, but like it really does not feel like a large jump. It doesn't feel like a large jump.
I suppose we should just kind of like, I mean, I don't know if you're a listener and you haven't watched this movie, it's not a long commitment. It's like a pretty lean 90 minutes, and you could find it streaming in most places. But if you haven't seen it, we're probably just kind of talking off. But like one of the things that happens in this movie is the character, this Bart Simpson character who's a prankster, gets taken to the Psychology Institute of Dr. Blakely, and they basically they try to use the hypnotizing technology that he wants to ultimately bring to the TV, but it doesn't work. Do you remember why it doesn't work, Khalid?
Is it the free thinkers? Is that the thing that doesn't make it work?
No, it doesn't work because his IQ is too big. They said he is too high of an IQ.
Right, exactly. Like he's like too imaginative, right?
Yeah,
is the problem.
Exactly. So it doesn't work, but what it does for the too imaginative people is it makes them have these crazy hallucinations rather than be brainwashed. So it does lead to some really exciting scenes. Like the opening sequence, we have presumably a girl who was in a similar situation as Jim, but ultimately didn't make it out. And then Jim, when he's driving his car, gets like attacked by like tentacles and tongues come out of the things. And like, he just like, there's scenes where he's like being attacked by these like mass tentacles. But then we also cut away to like the other character's perspective and he's just like fighting nothing. So it was a really, I think that was a cool like stylistic choice to like switch between those two like views of him, you know, the hallucination and the not hallucination. But
absolutely,
yeah,
I think
I thought that was cool.
what lends to what makes the creature terrifying. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
anybody that sees the creature for what it is like ready to fight it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the thing that makes the creature terrifying is that it is somehow like predisposed to finding the people that would fight it and making them look like a socially unacceptable terror.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it makes them look crazy. Yeah, essentially.
Which is like, that's like, if you told me like the monsters acronyms like led up to CIA, I'd believe it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of shit that's like, this monster would love working for the government because like they hate free thinkers. They hate anybody that would misinterpret like propaganda being hardwired to their brain. So for me, like, and again, like, I can't divorce this from like what I'm experiencing in my personal life while I'm watching it. And all I can think is just like, this monster is like the perfect like drug for the masses, in the sense that it's like fed into your home every day and it tells you like a consistent message. And the only people that are affected by it are the people that are like even marginally critical of what they're being fed.
Yeah. And then they have like a derangement syndrome, for lack of a better term.
Perfectly said.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Wow. One other line that this isn't like a poignant line or by any means, but just like stuck with me because it was so weird. Like after Jim like fucks up the pipes in his school and the teacher pulls him out and he's like, "Where do you think you are, America? No, you're in high school." It was a very weird line. And also like when you realize the fact that this was actually made in Canada.
Oh yeah. And honestly, this brings back the Grim Cuddy episode because even within that episode, I spoke about how like the argument of that movie is that like the only fascist control that is like conventionally allowed by America is parents.
I know. This also, I mean, to take this like a little further, this does have this is built-in plot hole proof. Like anyone who acts dumb or makes like unrealistic choices is hypnotized, right? Like for any reason.
Which is great.
Yeah, like, it was like the cop who was like, he could be a bad cop, he could be hypnotized, both probably.
And I mean, I think it just like really lends itself to like, you kind of just become okay with like certain casualties over others.
Yeah.
Which is like this like war of like ideologies. I think, I don't know, again, like we're sitting on like such a like hotbed of like time in like US global relations that it's like so hard not to divorce it from like a movie that is like directly indictful of ideology in general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like the power of it. But I can't help think about that. You know what I mean? I can't help think about like what is so like, you could be so easily accused of anything. You know what I mean? Like you could easily be accused of being like a psychopath because you're against X. And we see it with Jim. You know what I mean? Of like, he is so outwardly expressly against like this thing that is like rapidly spreading across his town and immediately is like caricatured as a villain.
Right. Like in the all the news reports, all the things that we see, like that. Yeah. It just seems like it amps up the amount of like the fear factor that they put behind this person, like dangerous. And he might be here, like keep on the lookout, all that stuff. Like it's like, I think your earlier point about somebody who's like falsely accused of something in a modern day, like, is pretty apt with that.
100%.
Like
And
the paranoia that just kind of leaps on, or gets slapped on top of and on top of and on top of these things.
And that's the horror part of this movie. It's not a giant sentient brain like brainwashing you. It's, oh yes, the public with like very little information about you could be turned against you.
Mm-hmm.
Then what do you do?
Yeah. Gotta ask you, what did you think about nurse/henchman guy by the name of Varna, the character that with the beard that would chase him a lot?
I think he got way more credit than he deserved from local law enforcement and literally anybody that saw him.
Do you remember when he was the first time when he's chasing Jim and his girlfriend?
Yeah.
What was her name? Do you remember?
Janet.
Janet, that's it. Jim and Janet.
Yeah.
The cop basically stops and tells Varna that he's helping him. He's on his side. And Varna inexplicably just chops his head off with an axe, like in one swoop, like not even like lodging it into his neck. It just right off, head off. Like that was something. I thought that was
when he beheaded the cop.
Yeah, just like right. It's like there was no resistance on that cop's neck, which was very funny to me. Also really loved his line. Probably my favorite line when early on Varna's like, "Oh look, its tail is growing," and then the doctor's like, "It's a spinal column, the brain." That was great.
I have a love-hate relationship with that scene because like that woman was like so clearly like brought into this movie to just be like like sex symbol and then immediately killed.
Right. That was that was very
like it just felt like either the doctor only wants stupid people following him, or because she was a woman, despite being demonstrably smarter than Varna, she was gonna get killed. That aside, the sexism aside, I think Varna was like an interesting villain in that like I really associated with him, even though he wasn't a cop, because he was always in uniform. It felt like every time anybody that wasn't being hunted by him just gave him the benefit of the doubt because of the uniform he wore. Like he felt very comfortably for me under like the ACAB of it all, of like, you're essentially an officer. You're essentially somebody that is like societally allowed to abuse, and so I hate you.
Well, he's like granted authority and runs with it to the extreme right away. Like exactly.
He's a piece of shit.
He's a piece of shit. That's kind of what I was trying to say.
Yeah, ACAB includes Varna and unfortunately the cop whose head he chopped off.
Definitely both of them.
Because they both saw each other as like on the same side.
They're comrades, yeah. The cop totally saw that, yeah.
They're on the same side of whatever enforcement they both believe they have to enact.
Yeah.
And again, sorry, cop, you would have survived if you were a little more ACAB and a little more discerning about like not just listening to any asshole in a uniform.
Yeah, maybe your head would still be there.
Yeah. So something for cops to think about, I guess.
Food for thought. Bring back that line.
Thought, which is a great quote when the fucking brain ate the chick. I watched the scene and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool and hot, but like even just because of my like media pop culture poison brain, I knew what it was leading to in a way. Like when they started showing her topless, I was like, the brain's gonna eat her at some point.
Yeah.
And when it did, I was just like, this feels gross and this feels mean and this feels like it's really just like to put like women in their place.
Yeah, it was the kind of politics, especially like gender politics, was not great. Like I feel like there was parts where they were trying to make Janet be a little more of a character, but then they like let her get hypnotized. Like I kind of wish she would have just been like on the same level as Jim, like also resistant to it,
Especially because they do the extra gross thing of bringing her back.
Yeah.
And it really like.
The one lady. Yeah. They brought her back in like the flashback. Yeah.
At the end of the movie, they bring her back And again, she is not wearing a shirt.
Mm-mm.
And I get it within the film of like they're playing on the temptations of a teenage boy.
Yeah.
And the idea is like he would only listen to her if she was topless. But like, I don't know. It just felt like, especially like if you're gonna make like this is as far as the movie's concerned, outside of Janet, the most significant woman to like play a role in all of these things and to be voicing the monster. I was not necessarily satisfied with like the combination of how naked and vulnerable she was versus the like quality of what she had to say. At that point, she was mostly saying like what the doctor was saying, and it didn't feel like anything new coming into the
Right.
fore.
Yeah. Very exploitative.
Exploitative and unnecessary.
Very much so. Yeah.
But again, like this ties into what I was saying at the top of the episode about like this hits like 1980s movie bingo.
I was gonna say, yeah, it feels like it's a very like 80s trope that was happening a lot in that time.
We need a hot chick, we need her naked, and we need her killed by the monster. Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit on the other side of that coin, there is an 80s trope about that having sex usually equals death in horror or sexuality. And it's true for that character, but there's a point that that Jim and Janet have sex like for the first time. Like they were like, well, I'm ready, we're gonna do it, which usually in a lot of horror movies like is kind of like a death sentence for those characters, especially the slashers. So it's interesting that subverted that trope, you know?
Yeah, I mean, but it didn't end up really being like a movie judgment, right? Like the monster doesn't kill her.
No, it doesn't. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like that usually in the 80s horror movies, like that's kind of a trope, is like the characters that have sex in the movie end up dying because it's like often
that's what feels like.
thing. So
that's what feels kind of inconsistent about this movie. Like
it's very inconsistent. Like there's a lot of incoherent
of women, and it definitely feels like it hits tropes, but not necessarily with like any kind of like goal in mind,
with any consistency either.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so there's certainly issues to complain about, I think, with that and like kind of its depiction and its like gender politics. But then it's like it kind of, I think it sometimes tries to like have its cake and eat it too, to not the best success. Anyway, one of the main reasons I brought up Verna though is I wanted to let you know, fun fact about the actor George Buza, was the voice of Beast in the X-Men cartoon and the '97 reboot.
I'll be honest, unfortunately, because Kelsey Grammer, he glamored me. Because Kelsey Grammer had like such a like good take of him, at least just like generally good take of him in the X-Men movies. That's all I hear now. So I can't remember what the '90s cartoon Beast said.
I can't remember either, but I thought that was kind of a fun thing. Apparently, this dude's got
a vaguely British guy.
Probably. He's got a massive resume of voice acting though, so it seems like that's more of his thing.
Probably a massive library of vaguely British guys.
Vaguely British guys, yeah.
he might be the decider of vaguely British guy voices, and I should give him more credit. But it's so successful, I have forgotten it.
Yeah, it's a success, I'd say.
Yeah.
Do you remember in the movie too, there was the one patient at the institute who like had the knife who switched places with Jim? I thought that was going to come back and be a bigger thing.
And this movie is directed so weird. Like when he comes in, like when Jim is like locked up and like in harnesses and the guy like comes in with a knife, there's like a full like 30 seconds on the guy with the knife where like there's tension and then it drops and then like it's still going in terms of like the shot, and you have no idea what this guy is like aiming to do.
Yeah,
I had no idea what that guy's like aims were until he freed Jim.
I thought he had other plans too. Like he just wanted to be in that room, and then we just never saw him again. Ever.
Yeah, it was a weird scene.
and we'd already seen that guy once in the beginning too. Like he ran into him when he first came in. It was the same guy.
And I was very convinced that he would have a big role going forward, which he did technically, but like executed in the weirdest way.
It was super weird. I was very confused about that. Also wanted to shout out the triangle transitions. Remember those?
Those are some like the editing of this movie was very notable.
it was very interesting. Yeah. Yes. Very, very interesting. Should we monster
Let's do it.
the brain?
The brain.
I don't know why I keep doing that. I'm sorry.
It's fun to say. I get it.
It's kind of fun to say. So the creature and special makeup effects were handled by Mark Williams, who had actually done makeup and effects work for like on The Fly, The Abyss, Terminator 2, Aliens. He's someone who'd actually done a lot of really great practical effects work, but he's unfortunately not always in the conversation with some of the big names because he actually kind of sadly died at 38 from respiratory failure.
Oh, damn.
He's kind of too young. But he's kind of somebody who was probably poised to have an amazing career and already did have a really pretty strong career. Anyway, as the story goes, director Ed Hunt brought Mark Williams along with him to investor meetings, and it was pretty much entirely due to Williams' vision for the creature and his experience already working with people like James Cameron and Cronenberg on like Aliens and The Fly. That was what got investors to actually give money to this movie. So it's pretty much entirely based on the skill of the creature designer, which is kind of interesting.
Wow. Have we gotten an example of that before?
I don't think so. I couldn't think of one. I mean, there's some that are like, there's some movies that are certainly showcases of creatures effects, but this is like what got it the money. So I think that's really interesting. The brain, the creature itself, as we learn, is a sentient alien brain with a mouth and a spinal column. Throughout the film, it does grow larger and larger as it chows down on humans. The effect of that, which we do see with the woman you were talking about in the beginning, is essentially like a giant puppet plopping down on a human and kind of like wrapping around it. So the actual creature, the monster, was built. It was a rubber suited monster puppet. Williams and kind of the other VFX people got to play a lot with the monstrous tongue and tentacles and limbs. So they were all kind of like in the background maneuvering those. The various brains were all made from sheets of foam rubber, polyfoam, and lots of latex. The big one that we see at the end, the biggest kind of iteration of the brain, was actually created on a framework of PVC pipe and was meant to be moved along by two kind of strong guys in harnesses, but it kept falling over. So they actually ended up mounting it on a camera dolly and kind of pushing and pulling it around that way. So, yeah.
Makes sense. That thing looked huge.
It was very big. Like, what did you think of? I mean, you kind of said like the horror of it is more so like the media element, but what did you think of the brain creature?
I'll be honest, because of like the limitations they had with the brain in terms of movement and action, like all I could think was like it would not be that hard to run away from the brain.
I mean, yeah, kind of, yeah. Although it gets in your head, I guess, right?
So many of the brain's victims are just conveniently paralyzed by the sight of the brain that the brain can comfortably eat them like I would eat a sandwich. You know what I mean? And that like I would never have to chase a sandwich. So I love the animation of the brain. It looked great. And like the shots of it, like solo coming at you, especially like in Jim's POV of like psychologically, I could appreciate the horror of it. But like in terms of like a physical terror, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a giant brain with a stem and it moves as such.
Yeah. Yeah. I fucking love the brain. I think it ruled. The terror, I get what you're saying about like the terror of it and like the impracticality of like the movements of it, but it's such a weird, unique looking creature, like in the canon of like monster movies that we've talked about, especially like it doesn't look like really anything else, I feel like, and it's so expressive. Like it's got like the face, like it's so interesting to look at. I think I could imagine like a movie where you have a creature, maybe something that just looks like other things, and you show it a ton, and you're like, whatever, it's the creature again. But every time it was on screen, I was like, oh, it's so weird and cool. You know, like a very
it definitely
looked
weird and cool. It was dope. When the guy, what is it? Vardis is his name?
Varna.
Yeah, Varda. What he's talking about is, oh, his tail's growing, and he's like, well, actually, that's his brainstem, dumbass.
That was so funny.
That was super funny, and I love the design of it. And yeah, again, there is this like terror element of like it's not chasing you. By the time it's coming after you, you're so under its thrall that you're just kind of like fish in a barrel to it.
Yeah.
There's something scary about that.
They really, I'm trying to remember the end of it. Like, do they actually, they don't really explain anything about where it came from, right? They're just like, it's alien. Like, we're just going with that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Him and the doctor are just hand waved as alien.
Yeah, because
And
they cut off the doctor's head too, and he's like green blooded or something.
right, like it's which I want to make a note. If you're gonna pretend to be human and have the most punchable face in the world, don't make it so easy to discover you're an alien as to punch your head off.
Yeah, that's right. It was a punch to head off.
Your face is so punchable. Like, so many people could have accidentally exposed you as an alien by virtue of like how punchable your face was.
Yeah,
He was such a dick.
he was a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that. I mean, that's kind of it. The teeth of the alien or the brain puppet apparently were made. I don't remember the exact material that some of the articles have said. It was a couple different things, but essentially they were really soft. And a lot of times when they were like maneuvering the brain puppet, like the teeth would just kind of like bend or get broken really easily. So they said like on set, that was something that led to like this creature not feeling like actually intimidating because its teeth would just keep like kind of like droop over sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I really loved it. I thought it was cool. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on the brain?
I think it was interesting in like this day and age of like how bad ratings have gotten when the Dr. Blake was talking about how, oh, we're about to get 10.5 million views. Like relatively back then, not that many views. Like realistically, like there's still way more gun owners in America. Like I don't think Dr. Blake's plan would have worked. These days, if you were about to like jump from public access to 10 million views, that's nuts. That was like a fun like viewership observation that I like. I think like Abbott Elementary gets 10 million views, and they're not trying to brainwash anybody. You know, like they are from a proper like broadcast network.
Yeah, well spotted. I'm trying to find something here, Khalid, but you're not giving me much.
What?
You're not giving me much, Khalid.
I just gave you like the viewership thing.
Speaking of giving me things, Khalid.
Sure.
Would you fight with or would you flirt with the brain? And re-explain what that means to viewers who haven't listened to us for 2 months.
Thank you for asking, Joe. Fight or Flirt is a segment we do on this podcast where I ask if I would fight or flirt with the monster in question. And it's basically what it sounds like. Would I flirt with the monster to save my life, or would I fight with it to save my life?
And to segue into this segment, I usually latch onto something Khalid said that I can kind of twist in a goofy way, but he didn't give me anything. So
he says goofy. I say perverted.
Maybe. Tomato. Some people say tomato.
So for this segment, would I fight or flirt with the brain? I thought about this. I'll be honest, like in a generous light, the brain is basically just an influencer. You know what I mean? So it's really just about like, do I think like my charms, my personality, and my ideas could like win over an influencer and save me? And the short answer is yes, I do. So I would flirt with the monster. I think I could take the reins and manipulate society to my ends, which you'll just have to take my word for it, but would be for the best. So yes, I would flirt to control the monster. I think that a media controlling psychic brain monster is too useful to just shoot indiscriminately.
So you would keep an open mind.
Yes, for lack of a better word, I would keep an open mind.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Khalid. Anyway, that was a fun one. I enjoyed talking about that. We do have one more segment that we do on this podcast. It's called our What the Fandom segment, in which we share a couple quick things that we are just sort of into at the moment, that we think that perhaps you listeners might enjoy, or we just want to plug because we're enjoying them. May or may not have anything to do with monsters or the movie in question. So with that being said, Khalid, it's been 2 months since we last did a podcast. What the fandom with you?
Thanks for asking, Joe. I have not one, but two What the Fandoms for our extended hiatus. My first What the Fandom is Shoresy, which the new season can be seen on Hulu. And then the first season of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which can be found on HBO. I think that the reason I'm recommending both of them as a two-hander for this overlaps in so much as both movies are very concerned with the kind of lessons, the kind of ideologies that we put forth before our young men. I think both series are very concerned with that in a way that feels very resonant to me in this day and age. And this idea of like, we live in a society that, for better or worse, feels like it's platforming maybe the worst of us, especially in the influential manosphere, as the articles call it. And so shows like Shoresy and A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I really think are more important now than ever insofar as showing the heroes or the just male archetypes that we would traditionally be programmed to root for and to side with ideologically. It's so much more important to show those guys taking a loss when the alternative is viewing themselves as less honorable than they are. I think that that is such a beautiful and a resonant message to be sending to young men beyond just the idea of you are the main character of this story. And so whatever you do to win is the right thing. I love that there are shows like that in this day and age that are showing that you can be the hero and the man of the story and still lose in such a way that does not discount that masculinity, and if anything emboldens and reinforces that sense of masculinity because you lost. And so yeah, I just, those two stories that I got to watch in the break here between episodes, just I walked away from them thinking about them so much longer than like other traditional hero's journey stories that maybe don't have a quote unquote political bent to them. So yeah, I don't even want to give anything away about the plot of either of them. You will be pleasantly surprised to find out that if you do watch both of them, they couldn't be more different. And yet my endorsement of them and the reason for the endorsement of them is so intersected, so interconnected. So do yourself a favor, check out the new season of Shoresy. If you haven't checked out Shoresy at all, check out the whole series. And if you haven't checked out the first season of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, check out the new season. But those are both just really great shows that don't feel toxic in a way that some stories might intentionally or unintentionally fall into. Joe, with that being said, what the fandom with you?
Thanks for asking, Khalid. Was a very eloquently put. Very nice.
Thank you.
I am gonna just highlight a couple things that have brought me some joy over these last couple months. I mean, there's lots of movies and things that I've been watching. Well, currently, I mean, I'll just give a quick shout out to these two things. I'm currently Nicole and I are currently watching through Murderbot on Apple TV. Really enjoying that, but we're not done with it, so I'm going to wait for my official endorsement. Also, really loving the new Star Trek Starfleet Academy, which has 2 more episodes. So I'm gonna save that for a later one. But currently, those are making me happy. But a couple other things that really been digging. Earlier, a couple weeks ago, I want to say at this point now, we got the chance to watch an early screening of the new documentary Beam Me Up Sulu, which I believe you also saw, Khalid, right?
I did, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's truly delightful. It's this really obscure story of a fan film from 1985, a Star Trek fan film, where the creator of the film, Stan Wu, got George Takei, who plays Sulu, to appear in the fan film. Footage got lost for 30 years, and then gets completed finally more recently. And so these directors, Timur Gregory and Sasha Schneider, who we actually interviewed on Deep Space Love, our other podcast, they started with this idea of a short documentary on this fan film, but then they interviewed Stan, they interviewed George Takei, and it became this much bigger project that's all about just sort of the unity that can be found within kind of like the shared like fandom when it comes to like seeing yourself in something that you love. Like it was a lot about representation, specifically in this case Asian representation, but they really expanded it to a lot of things in the documentary. They talk about just like the togetherness that kind of like Star Trek has like fostered, the influence that it's had on society and culture, and like how the influence that has had on it as a franchise. It was really touching. Like it was funny. There was a lot of silly moments. There was really cool animation. There was a lot of great interviews with like different Trek actors and sci-fi writers. But there was also like tear-jerking moments, like especially George Takei talking about his time in the internment camps when he was a kid, or like some of the adversities they faced. And so like it was a really delightful and kind of hopeful like documentary story. And it just recently dropped on streaming services. So if you're interested in that, I'd even say like even if you're not a Star Trek fan, it's just a really like touching kind of like human story. Highly recommend Beam Me Up, Sulu. The other movie that I wanted to give a shout out to, I saw not too long after that in one of the local theaters here in St. Paul, is called Iron Lung, which kind of had a little bit of a buzz around it. It was created by the YouTuber who goes by Markiplier. His name is Mark Fishbach, but it's this kind of like horror story based on an indie video game that he was really into, and he basically self-funded and created this film. Like pretty much entirely takes place within like a submarine that goes into an ocean of blood to search for something to help them save the universe that's inexplicably dying. And that's the premise. And there's a lot of weird, like kind of eldritch horror stuff that goes on to it. And the movie is good. I think that there are certainly some critiques you could level at it, but I admire like the scrappiness of it, the ingenuity of like doing so much with so little, and the fact that he really fought to get it a theatrical release and just made something out of very little. And it's a really cool project. It also beat the Melania documentary in the when it came out, which was cool for that. I thought,
hell yeah,
like
dude.
Weird obscure horror movie. Yeah. And then I did want to give one more shout out to something I was really excited about. I did talk about this on the podcast a long time ago. A book that I've come to discover is one of my top favorite books now is a book called Gideon the Ninth from author Tamsin Muir, who's a New Zealand science fiction writer. I finally read her second book in the series. It's called the Locked Tomb series, and the second one's called Harrow the Ninth. And I've really just come to realize that series it's so innovative in what it's doing for like the science fiction and fantasy genre. It's kind of like combining like gothic horror with like space opera and kind of like really epic fantasy, but it's got this like really interesting tone and vibe depending on the character that's being focused on. It's kind of plugged as being like lesbian space necromancers who can, so it's got this kind of like goofy tone, but it plays in some serious places and some really heavy themes and ideas, but can also just make you laugh out loud. Incredibly unique. She's planning 4 of them. I just finished book 2. Absolutely loved it. It plays a lot with like story structure and expectations. So like there's a lot of elements where there's an unreliable narrator element, but you don't know how and why that's happening. She does a little bit of second person in this book, second person narration, which is really interesting. You don't know who's telling us the story. So it's like it's a really unique series, and I feel like that was something that I read kind of over like some of the colder and even I'd say challenging like politically here, and especially in the Twin Cities like times. And I feel like that was something I was kind of like, this is really a really cool thing to really like dive into at times when I needed a little bit of an escape. But so highly recommend that one too. Those are 3 things that I'd say really stood out to me over the past couple months. My fandoms, if you will.
Thank you for sharing, Joe. I know it was a test of wills to not recommend more things because of the break. I know you have plenty of things to share, but those were some amazing recommendations.
Yeah. Thanks, Khalid.
Yeah, of course. And thank you all for listening to us as we come back from our hiatus. This was such a great movie to come back to and discuss. Thank you, Joe, for recommending it. I can't wait to jump on the next episode. Until then, though, listeners, creep it easy. Frankenstein's podcast is hosted by Joe Praska and me, Khalid Hussein, with music from Jim Hall and original artwork from Jim Tandberg. A reminder that we do have a Patreon if you are interested and able to support our show. We are a fully independent podcast maintained as a labor of love, so anything helps. You can become a Patreon at the $1 or $3 level, or you can become a producer at the $7 level. Becoming a patron gives you access to bonus content like Frankenbits, where we discuss a range of topics often outside the realm of monsters. Thank you to our current Patreon producers, Luke Johnson, Andy Groth, Jay Cole, and Joe Michaud. And thank you to each and every one of you listening.